Hi.
The blue truck. The blue truck is my 1968 C10 I bought back in 2015. Searching around on YouTube and I found this truck. It was called a turbo farm truck. I seen that video and it had me hooked. I was like, I want a truck like that. And I'm, searching through Craigslist and this truck pops up. 68 C10, almost the same color, cool patina, and it was a fleet side, which was a plus. I like step sides, but fleet sides are better. And I was like, oh shit. But I was in school, 10th grade, I didn't work yet, and I only had a couple grand, and the dude wanted $27.50 for it. I offered the dude $2,000. I said, hey, I'm just a kid, and I'm interested in buying this. I'd like to use it as a daily driver. I could give you $2,000 as I don't have a job and things like that, but I really want the truck. And the dude heard me out and he said, if you show up to buy the truck, he said, I'll sell it to you for $2,000. So we went up and got it. The thing ran and drove for the most part. And besides the rust, it was a pretty solid truck. So I got a clutch for it, put the clutch in it, gave it a tune-up, this, that, and the other thing. And when I was just about 17, I think, once I finally got my license, because I failed twice and it took me 3 tries to get it, long story, but I finally got it on the road and started daily driving it. And once I started working and making more money, I kept bettering it. And then it came into my head, what I wanted to do. I wanted to LS swap it. And what was the goal for the truck? The goal was I wanted it to do everything well, as far as, being able to daily drive it, being able to rely on it, drag racing, handling wise on back roads or auto crossing it eventually, things like that. I wanted to try and build something that wasn't great at one specific thing, but was good enough at everything where it was enjoyable and I could still use it as a truck. I didn't have too much money to throw at it, so I kind of hacked it together and got it close to what I wanted, but a real rough, raw form of it. And I never actually got the truck I was looking for. It was close, but I decided that, I knew what I wanted and I needed to do it. So I bought a 4.8 LS and I wanted the small cubic inch. Everybody goes 6.0 or 6.2, stuff like that. I didn't have a lot of money. It was $300 and went to pick it up the beginning of January 2018. Went and got it. And I tore the thing down, and my plan with the truck was, seeing the turbo farm truck, I wanted to do the same type of deal. I was gonna put the 4.8 in it as just a starter motor, and then put a single turbo kit on it, and put a 5-speed in it, and then, get the feel for everything, make sure it's running good, and then, build like a 6-liter in the background, and then once it was time, swap the 6.0 into it and pull the 4.8 out. Well, I got this 4.8 and I pulled the intake off of it right away. There was a ton of soot and carbon buildup and everything inside of the intake runners, which wasn't a good sign. So I figured I'll pull the valve covers. Wasn't much better in there, so I turned the thing over, pulled the oil pan. There's probably about an inch of sludge in the oil pan. So that's when I knew I was building a 4.8. And it started off, I was just gonna tear it down and put it back together, stock, and throw it in. But then it turned into, while it's apart, maybe I'll put a cam in it. Then the cam I picked took $600 valve springs, and it just turned into a whole thing, and I ended up dumping a ton of money into it. But I gotta give it to it. It did last for 3 years until I pulled the truck apart, but it was a good motor. So transmission wise, I wanted a 5-speed, but at the time it was $2,500 just for the trans, and I wasn't making money like that, so that wasn't gonna happen. So I searched on Craigslist, I came across a T10, Borg Warner T10, and bought it. It was $625, put it in, and it was horrible. I couldn't even shift gears, couldn't do anything. The trans was junk, and eventually one day I drove it to work and the trans locked up in the parking lot. And the dude said he rebuilt it, and he said When he gave it to me, it worked fine. He had it in his car, and he just got rid of it because he wanted to put a T56 in, but he screwed me basically. So I ate the money, and I ended up with 2 other Sagnaws I went and put in it, and it always had this weird vibration when you'd be going down the highway doing 45 to 60 miles an hour. It would vibrate and make all kinds of racket. At first I thought it was the first Saginaw, so I got another one, and then I'm thinking it was just the drive shaft. That coupled with the rust, the truck had the lower control arms, the pockets where the spring sits were rotting out, and it wasn't good. It wasn't in good shape. The frame had a hole in it, and I figured, you know what, I just need to pull this whole truck apart, and I need to do it right, and I need to get it done the way I want. And so I can finally accomplish that dream of having the truck that can do everything. So that's what I did, and that's where I'm at now. This is basically where I'm at with it. I have a couple of the cross members put back in now. I have the front cross member here put back in. I painted that. I have this one from Waiver Speed, which you've seen in my last video. And I have this CPP unit right here, along with the CPP C notches. And I'm trying to basically not put a lot of money into it. I spray painted everything with Rust-Oleum, and I tried to do the best job I could, but I just don't want this to turn into thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, because this truck's going to end up being a daily driver, and I don't want to put all kinds of money into it and then drive it through the PA salt and snow and whatnot and then destroy all that money. So I'm trying to keep it on the low buck side so I can enjoy it, and also so I don't have so much money into it where I'm not having fun with it anymore. But I got factory control arms here and painted those. And if you look over here, I have the engine stands and the panhard bar mounts and stuff painted. Here's the brakes that were on it. Initially, when I lowered it back when I was in high school, I got a CPP kit, put disc brakes on the front and lowered it with springs and spindles. So yeah, I'm actually going an inch lower. Before it was a 4.5 drop. Now I'm going to a 5.6. And everybody does usually a 4.6, but I like the little bit of rake with it. So that's where I'm at with it. So quick pro tip. If you're working on a 67 to 72 C10 and you're redoing the front steering, do not, I repeat, do not throw away your idler arm bracket or your center link. I thought since you can literally buy anything for these trucks, you could buy that stuff. Nope. Nobody makes them. The only one that makes the center link is Hotchkiss, and it's like 220 bucks, more than I want to spend. And I cannot for the life of me find an idler arm bracket for it. So I'm gonna have to do some searching through junkyards and on eBay and all that, but I looked everywhere, and so far I cannot find an aftermarket or used original anywhere. So don't throw yours out. So you see what I mean about rust. It's definitely not in the best of shape. Here's some other miscellaneous parts I took out of it. It still had the factory gas tank in it. I'm relocating that to the bed. And this grill and core support, and actually the hood, is off of another truck because I tried drifting the one day and smashed it into the back of a box truck. So I got this nice rad support and had it powder coated along with the grill. And then the hood, I just got some Rust-Oleum semi-gloss and painted it up. It's dirty because it's been sitting outside for a year, but it didn't come out too bad. I was actually pretty happy with it. But yeah, here's the lower control arm, pretty screwed. This bed's actually going back on it, and I'm not repainting the truck because I like patina and I don't want to have to worry about the truck. So putting this back on, I'm definitely probably going to put a new floor in the bed because it's pretty shot. And before I took it apart, if you would stand on it, it felt like you were standing on a floaty in a pool because you were moving around quite a bit. But aluminum radiator I got from my buddy. But yeah, I have some good parts to work with. So the cab for the truck actually ain't in too bad a shape. It's got some typical rust on it, but firewall ain't bad, above the windshield ain't bad, and overall the top portion of the cab's pretty solid. But once you start getting down, yeah, it gets less solid. This is my work here. I put this cab corner on and did some metal work on this side. I think it came out pretty good so far. The rocker, the outer rocker isn't on, I just have it in place. But this stuff is, and I made these floor patches for it and whatnot. And I actually never welded before in my life, and I'm learning on this, and so far I think it's coming out pretty good. But as you can see, the rust on this truck was pretty awful, and just by the amount of shit there, you know, things like that are the reason I took this truck apart to begin with. It was to the point where, you know, something needed to be done, or the truck was going to be scrap metal in a few years. But I love it. This is the 4.8 that was in it. I had this thing all the way down to the bare block, had it honed, everything cleaned at the machine shop, and I assembled it myself. Had the heads decked. It has a comp LSR 265 cam in it, and the supporting push rods, valve springs, and everything else. I believe the heads are decked 21 thousandths, and other than that, stock bottom end, you know, new bearings, rings, all that good stuff, and it ran really good for what it was, for being 293 cubic inches. I mean, it was a good running motor. Now it's a shelf, but it had a few issues. I had some metal in the oil, but it never amounted to anything. Didn't make any horrible noises. It smoked a little bit of blue every now and then. I really never figured out what that was. I believe it's coming from the number 7 cylinder, because that always had an oily exhaust runner, but that is that. And I'm actually going to be reusing this motor in the future. I'm going to pull it all the way back apart and check out and see what everything looks like and fully rebuild it. And I'm probably going to change a cam intake and a couple other things, but put it back together the way it was, because it ran really well. Well, that's the truck and where it's at now. Where I want it to be is obviously finished, because I want to drive it. I'm going to put the 4.8 back in. I thought about turboing it, pro charging it, or just using some of the parts out of it to build a 6.0, but I kind of brought myself back down to reality and realized that this is a daily driver, and I want to run it on 87 octane, and I'd like it to get decent fuel economy, so all that stuff isn't going to help with that. And really, 400 horse is right around the ballpark where, you know, I'd like to be with it. As far as transmission, I'm going with the American Powertrain TKX. I feel like that's the best deal for me. You know, I like the overdrive. I don't need a T56. I don't want to cut the floor up, and although I am already cutting it up, but I don't want to cut the trans tunnel out of it and do all that and then spend more money. As far as rear, I'm sticking with a 12 bolt, and I'm going to put a posi unit in that. Tires and wheels, I'm not so sure yet. Probably gonna just stick with my Steelies for a while, 15-inch Steelies, probably do 275, 60 all the way around, and maybe one day upgrade to 18s or something like that. As far as suspension, you know, like I said, stock springs, lowering springs, but stock just coil springs and everything on all 4 corners, no coilovers. I just don't feel like spending the money. It's supposed to be cheap, fun, you know, do burnouts, slide around in the rain, and just whatever, you know, nice daily driving truck, don't have to worry about it, no nice paint, none of that. So that's the truck, and you know, I'm not going to keep up with these boring videos. I know it's really not fun to watch me put a cross member in or blab on about my truck and stuff like that, but I figured I'd just give an overview of, you know, where it started, where it's been, where it's going. And you know, every now and then I'll make an update video when I actually get something done with it. Hopefully there'll be plenty of videos of me doing donuts and burnouts and driving around and all that when it's done, so stay tuned for that. So that's it. If you like the video and you want to give me a thumbs up, that'd be cool. If not, and you want to give me a thumbs down, then I'm sorry I didn't like it, and that's cool too. But stay tuned for more cooler stuff, and hopefully I'll be bringing that to you relatively shortly, but it might take a little while because it's like 20 degrees here and snowing all the time, so kind of sucks. But maybe I'll make a snow drifting video in the Miata, because that's fun. But see you next time.